Every once in a while, I just have to sit down and just try to relax a little bit and ask myself some very unbelievable questions. One, why me? You know, every once in a while I think about that. You know, Mark could have picked a lot of people in his journey of Herbalife, especially the last 15 years. And I did ask that question when Mark picked me all those years ago. Then my next comment was, why not me? Why not me? I've got the background, I've got the experience. Mark and I met when he was 19 years old. He walked into my seminar, changed my life. I don't know how much it changed his life, I'm sure some. And we became good friends. I watched him put the products together, start the company. And I was there when things got underway. And just, you know, all through my journey now, especially all these 20 years, and 2 or 3 before that when I met Mark, I just asked myself often, why did all of this happen to me? But it does happen. I was with Tony Robbins the other day and sitting down with his staff for a whole day, and Tony had a neat illustration. He picked up a packet of playing cards, and he said, now let's say that these playing cards represents the 6 billion people that are in the world, and he was talking about gratitude. And he said, sometimes we grumble a little bit about our life and things aren't going quite as well as we think they ought to go. He said, let's try this little illustration. Let's say that this packet of playing cards represented the 6 billion people in the world. Would you be willing to do this? Take the card that's been picked for you because that's who you are now. Would you be willing to put that card back in the deck and then choose another card? Now remember, there's 6 billion people in the world. There's 6 billion different possibilities of where you could live, where you would be from, the kind of person you would be. Would you put your personal card back in the deck and pick another card? And everybody in his little audience there said, no, come to think of it, I think I'll keep the card I've got. A great illustration. And that's true, I think, for all of us here. Let's keep the card we've got. Let's be grateful for it. And I certainly am. And this journey for me, especially the last 20 years being associated with Herbalife, those early distributors, watching Mark grow, watching the company grow, watching the people grow, watching myself grow, watching Herbalife take on the challenge country by country, language by language, following Mark's dream around the world, watching him master the skills so we mastered the skills. Watching him look into the future, so that caused us to look into the future. Watching Mark learn how to find answers to the challenges and the problems, and so we started looking for answers to the challenges and the problems. And we've been following him now all of these years, and it's been the most incredible journey. Herbalife is here in spite of. A whole lot of things were because of Mark's leadership and the products and the testimonials and the early distributors that were dedicated. But Herbalife had its challenges when they had to go back to Washington, D.C. and fight for the company and preserve the integrity of the products and the marketing system, and Mark led the way. So 1984 happened, but those who survived it went on to help build and create what we've got here today, and I'm sure they will be happy to say along with you, in spite of 1984, here we are. Let me hear you say it again. Here we are. So here we are. By the way, here I am. I mean, after all of these years and all of the traveling and all of the miles and all of the stuff and all that, you know, we've been through the last 15 years, especially that I've been devoting a big share of my time to Herbalife, I'm just thankful that I'm here. You're here and I'm here. We're all here. But here's what's exciting. Jot this down now. We have come to this forum not with empty hands. We have come here with an incredible legacy. A legacy is the collection of value. And we have come here with that incredible legacy, especially reviewing, as we're doing now, the last 20 years. Let's talk about it. Make these notes. Number one, spectacular leadership. What a collection of leadership. Mark's especially the last 20 years. It's been fun for me to have known Mark when he was 19 and then watch him as he's matured over these last 20 years. Now, it took a lot of maturity, and it took a lot of style, and it took a lot of uniqueness and devotion on his part as he put the products together. That was leadership at its best when Mark put the products together. But then he started the company 20 years ago, and every demand of leadership that's been required of Mark to run a company doing 100 million, and then 500 million, and then 1 billion, and now 2 billion, headed for 3 billion, Mark's passed every test in terms of leadership. But then he's inspired all of the rest of us, from the Chairman's Club on down, to pick up part of the leadership load here so we can keep continuing to build using this 20 years for the next 20 years. But we bring incredible leadership. You know, I've been around the world the last 36, 37 years, and I know some of the movers and shakers of some of the big-time companies around the world in all kinds of major industries, but I'm telling you, I've never seen such a devoted collection of leadership over the last 20 years that I've been involved with the Herbalife story, Mark Hughes and all of you, than is right here in Herbalife. We've got it. And yes, as Churchill said in World War II, it's going to take blood, sweat, and tears. And if we could hear from all of you that have become extraordinary leaders, especially the last 20 years, especially the last 5 or 6 years, we would hear some of the stories of blood, sweat, and tears. So we have not come just dropping out of the sky. It's been a process, and it's been evolving. In fact, when people say, what about this Chairman's Club? How come they're so powerful and so unique? Here's what we can say without a doubt. We paid for it. We paid for it with hours. We paid for it with time. We paid for it with heart. We paid for it with soul. Becoming unique Chairman's Club members, President's Team members, this journey did not come cheap. So honestly, we can say, when people ask, how come these are such powerful groups as part of Herbalife? And here's what we can honestly say. We paid for it. And I want you to repeat that after me, because I want you to keep that ringing in your ears as you go home. We paid for it. Yes, we've got the best, but we paid for it. We've got the best, but it wasn't just handed to us. We've got the best there is in terms of leadership, but it come at a great cost, but we paid for it. Next, we've got a list of products now, second to none. Yes, Korea was shortchanged in those, early times. Now their product list is beginning to grow. But in spite of the short list of products, they did a spectacular job. But the products have served us so well these last 20 years. The products have been part of the Herbalife spectacular story. When we put together all of that, what a legacy that is. Herbalife's products. Next is the marketing system. What an illustration we'd had here last night of the appeal and the dynamic part of Herbalife's marketing system. It's been intact now for 20 years. All we've done is revise it a little bit better and a little bit better, but it's never been changed. The basics of Herbalife's marketing have existed now for 20 years, well tested around the world. What a legacy that is, right? We didn't have to change it. We didn't have to rearrange it. We didn't say, well, this marketing plan won't work. That was marketing plan for last year. Here's the new marketing plan for this year. Mark's basic marketing system has worked for 20 years, and it's been the best. What a legacy that is. Next is the support system. What a price was paid by everybody in this room helping to develop Herbalife's support system. The STSs and the workshops and the home meetings and the personal meetings and the one-on-one meetings. All of that support system that's being conducted around the world, I've never seen anything like it. I travel all around the world, and I'm telling you, it is possible to do business in all of the countries Herbalife is in by using this incredible Herbalife support system. I don't know of any other company that's got it, this powerful a support system, so that you can plug a new distributor into the support system and they can get the training and get the inspiration, hear the testimonials, get the help, get their questions answered, and help them on their way to success. How incredible. A big part of our legacy next is reputation. We now thrive on Herbalife's reputation. I'm in Nate Now's the other day, where I have breakfast almost every morning when I'm at home. Nate and Al's here in Beverly Hills. Someone asked me the other day, said, Mr. Rohn, or said, I've seen you in here. Who are you? And I said, I'm Mr. Rohn. Said, what do you do? And I said, I travel the world for Herbalife. I travel the world for Herbalife. What a title. I mean, this is fantastic. Traveling the world for Herbalife. And now here's what when you talk to people now about Herbalife, it's got the most incredible reputation. You know, it used to be a little while back, we said, well, if we can get them to a meeting without saying it's Herbalife. But we don't have to do that anymore. Guess what we can do up front? It's Herbalife. Don't tell me you're not in Herbalife. Don't tell me you haven't tried Herbalife. We just come right out and say, this is it. If you haven't tried it, you got to try it. Herbalife. Here's part of the legacy that's necessary, and that's character. All of the things that we have to go through, and all of the challenges, and passing all of the tests, and sometimes making mistakes, but correcting them to the best of our ability to develop our own character. And here's what's exciting about Herbalife's character as a company. It represents each personal distributor. Now, if Herbalife's collective character represents each personal distributor, here's what's also important to note, jot it down. Each person in Herbalife is a personal representative of Herbalife. It depends on your character. Collectively, as a company, we've done pretty well. But each person is essential. And as we gather here today and rededicate ourselves to the idea that we've got a dream that's second to none, we can do some spectacular things. This is one thing to remember. Let us keep the character that we've built for the last 20 years. Let's don't do anything to destroy it. Let's keep the reputation. Here's the next part of Herbalife, the legacy of the last 20 years. The power, the reach, the influence. We couldn't have gone to India 20 years ago. Our arms weren't long enough. We couldn't have gone to some of the countries we've gone into just recently. Couldn't have gotten there 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Here's what it takes to go now to the mega population countries like India and like China. It takes a mega reach and a mega support system in terms of home office and all of the rest in order to get there. But we're now ready for India, and we're ready for China, and we're ready for the other mega populations of the world because we got the power, we got the power, we got the reach. We've got the experience. We've been through it. I mean, pick any one of us here, and you will have a drama and a story second to none. I always wish, but it would take, how many years would it take? If we said, look, let's just stay long enough to hear everybody's story. Wouldn't that be unbelievable? Now, I have the chance to travel all around the world, and I hear some of the very special stories. But I'm telling you, some of you sitting way up there, I would love to hear your personal story. I'll bet you could dazzle me with the details. I'll bet you could give me a story second to none. Say, well, yes, Mr. Rohn, I'm smiling now, and I'm sitting here now, but let me tell you what I've been through in order to get here. That's part of our legacy. All of that experience to push through all the barriers and finally arrive at the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles, California, Herbalife. I wished I knew everybody's story here. Guess what we've got over the last 20 years? A collection of answers. There's been all kinds of questions about the products, and questions about marketing, and questions about survival, questions about countries, questions about legal, questions about everything. Guess what we have now after 20 years? A collection of answers second to none. We've got the answers, and the reason that we've been out there, we haven't just been wasting our time, we have been out there. Here's what we've got from the last 20 years, a collection of testimonials second to none. Herbalife has the most dramatic list of testimonials. I wish our minds could possibly try to comprehend the list of all of the Herbalife testimonials from using Herbalife products, including all the distributors, including all of the customers. It would be mind-boggling if we knew the details of every testimonial of every customer and every distributor from around the world. But that's our legacy. and we've gathered that up, and it's now ready to serve us for the next 20 years, the testimonials of the last 20 years. But we paid for this list of testimonials. It didn't come cheap. It didn't come easy. It didn't fall in our lap. We had to knock on the door and make the call and do the deal early and late, lunch hour, and all of the rest. But because we paid the price over the last 20 years, we have this collection of testimonials and customers that serve us well. Now we've got the customers that lay the foundation for Herbalife's growth the last 20 years and will serve us well in the next 20 years. Customers that come from the mountains, customers that come from the cities, customers that were gotten because, you know, people knocked on the door of their relatives until they finally bought. Someone says, I can't get my relative on Herbalife. Say, just get everybody around them on Herbalife, and finally they'll have to give in. I mean, there's always a way to get it done. Some customers, right? A housewife in Korea gets on her bicycle and heads for the little mountain village and sells Herbalife and gets another customer. Yes, we've got the most incredible list of customers ever, but we paid for it. We paid for it. We walked the streets, we knocked on the doors, we called on the phone, we sat down and talked, we explained it, and we held in there, became dedicated not only to sell the products, but to get people to use the products. We've paid for it, and we have that legacy here over the last 20 years. Next is our distributors. What company has got such an incredible list of Herbalife dedicated distributors that we have? Distributors that we've taught, distributors that we've trained, distributors that we've corrected. Some of our distributors on our part took a great deal of patience, but we went through the pain, we stayed with them, gave them more reasons for staying than for leaving, and sure enough, now they number this incredible number of several 100,000 distributors around the world. Next, over the last 20 years, we have an incredible collection of pride, personal pride, company pride, community pride, country pride, organizational pride. I'm proud of the banners and I'm proud of the flags and all of the rest. Where you represent your country, you represent your community. It's just been exciting to watch. That kind of pride, if we added it all up, it would be an unbelievable list. The pride we have in what we do, but we paid for that. We have the respect of other people because we stood there and did the deal when it was not easy. We've been through a collection of winters, approximately 20 according to the calendar, but all kinds of personal winters and social winters. And Russia's been through the political winters, and some of your countries that you represent here today were through the financial winters of a couple of years ago when the money fell out of the sky and wasn't worth very much, but you made it through. That collection of experience is unbelievable. We've been through the nights. I don't know how many nights 1 year, 20 years is, but it's a big collection of nights when it isn't that easy, when it isn't, you know, going your way, and it gets dark, but finally the day comes. That whole collection of winters and nights we've been through. The losses that we all have incurred at time to time over the last 20 years, we've made up for those. We've corrected our errors in judgment, and we've done whatever we needed to do. Whatever's worthwhile. We've deserved our fortune for all of the display last night of the diamonds and the money and all at the top level of our business. That kind of pride goes all the way throughout the Herbalife organization over the last 20 years. Let's hear it for the last 20 years Herbalife experience. We paid for it. We deserve it. Now we could talk for another 2 or 3 hours about the past, but let's talk about the future. For your notes, here's what we need now for the next 20 years. A very clear vision. And it's going to be the responsibility of everybody here to pick up the task of the vision for the future. 10 years from now, Herbalife will arrive. I want to be there. 10 years from now, all of you will arrive. Let's all be there. Let's talk about the present. Let's talk about the chance to work miracles. Here's a key line. You can use it in your training. The present takes the past and the future and creates reality. The present takes the past and the future and creates reality. And now we have to engage in something called personal development in order to accomplish that. Most all of you know my story. At age 25, I met this extraordinary teacher, Mr. Earl Schoaf. And this is what he taught me. From personal development comes everything else. Because success is not something you chase or pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Once I understood that, he said, then shouldn't you spend a great deal of your time working on becoming an attractive person? Do that hard work on yourself. Not just the hard work on your customer, not just the hard work on your distributor, but do the hard work on yourself. Developing the proper temperament, developing the personality, developing the outward vision, developing the language, not being lazy in this personal development quest. Here's the key phrase to jot down, teach it to everybody that you can reach. It's the disciplines that work the miracle. Yes, we need the vision. And yes, we need the faith to believe that if we did it before, we can do it again, and if others did it, then we can do it. We need that kind of faith and that kind of vision. But without the disciplines, the vision is lost and the imagination is worthless. It now takes the disciplines to build a career. It takes the disciplines to build an organization. It takes the disciplines to create good health. We can read about good health, we can talk good health, and we can believe that good health is possible. But you got to take the 2 shakes a day and the few tablets 3 times a day, and you got to do the push-ups, and you got to jog around the block, and you got to drink the water, and you got to do the stuff. You got to do all the things necessary to create good health. Good health is not just a vision. Good health is a practice. It's a discipline. If you want the relationships that'll bless your life for the rest of your life, you've got to do the work. You can wish and you can hope and you can pray, but after you've done that, now you've got to do the disciplines to make it true. So I'm asking you to embrace the disciplines. Some of us say, well, you know, I'm not that much interested in disciplines. But it's only disciplines that create reality out of imagination and faith. You got to have the disciplines. And remember this is a good line to teach. Each discipline affects all the rest. And each lack of discipline affects all the rest. A good note to make. It's a bit philosophical, but you got to teach it. Everything affects everything else. It's pretty easy to say, oh, this doesn't matter. And you've got to remind yourself that's not true. Everything matters. Some things matter more than others, but everything matters. And you say, well, I can let this slide because it doesn't matter. But remember, whatever you let slide affects the rest. It affects the rest of your performance. It affects the rest of what you want to create in terms of value. But now here's the good news. Each new discipline affects the rest. And that's why you've come here to spend these days, to pick up some new disciplines, to pick up some new ideas. And I promise you, if you'll put some of these new ideas you've learned here these days by sitting in this class and taking good notes, it will affect all the other things that you're doing. Each new one affects the rest. Each lack affects the rest. I want you to remember that, not only use it, but I want you to teach it. Now, how can we acquire this personal development? It takes philosophy, your personal philosophy. I've talked about it all around the world. The ability to make decisions about direction. The ability to read yourself and to read others and to be mindful of what's going on. Good philosophy comes from being a good listener. I started listening to a little program called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. Back then it was on the big, I think we called them 45s or big 78s or whatever those big records were back then. And I listened to this program by Earl Nightingale called The Strangest Secret. I listened to it over and over and over and over. And the things that I didn't understand when I first listened to it, I understood the 10th time and the 20th time and the 50th time as I listened to it and listened to it and listened to it. And I still review it every once in a while because it's part of what started to change my life at age 25. If you want the stature and if you want the character and if you want the reputation and if you want the money, you got to do the deal. You got to do the disciplines. Listen to the tapes. Attend the classes. Don't miss anything. Boy, it's easy to say, yes, they're going to talk about retail. I've heard all about that, and you don't go. And you miss one of the classic ideas of how to get more customers and vitalize your organization. Don't miss the classes. It's part of the personal development. Don't fail to take the notes. My teacher said, don't trust your memory. You can't remember everything. You got to jot it down so that you can then review it. All of you know I've been keeping journals all of these years. You got to do the deal. It's so easy once you've reached a certain place to say, well, I don't need to do that anymore. Guess what you have to do? You have to do it all of your life. Now let's talk about what you can do in the now. Taking the past, looking into the future, setting our goals. Here's what we can do now. Number one, you can turn errors into disciplines. Sure, you've made some mistakes. I've made some mistakes. We didn't get here because we didn't make any mistakes. We've had some errors in judgment. But here's what we've learned to do. Turn errors in judgment into disciplines. We've learned to turn losses into skills. Some things you have gone through, losses, you've learned to turn those into skills so that they don't happen anymore. Next, we've learned to turn disappointments into wisdom. And you can't develop wisdom without the disappointments. Many times we'd love to spare our children some of the stuff we've been through, but they've got to go through it just like we went through it. They've got to learn wisdom through disappointments. We have all learned this is what we can do. Sure, the door is closed, but if you knock, who knows what kind of opportunity lies behind the closed door. But if you don't knock, opportunity stays hidden behind the door. That's what you can do. Learn to knock. Take a chance. Take a chance on a relationship. The same wall that keeps out disappointment keeps out happiness. You've got to take down the wall and take a chance. We've learned to do that. Here's the next one. You can learn to become ambitious. A lot of our distributors start with enough ambition to make a few $100s a month. And then they start changing that to 1,000. And then you heard some of the stories here last night. They change it to a couple of thousand, and then 5,000, and then 50,000, and then 100,000. And finally their ambition reaches the point that they can find the people, render the service, get the customers, build the organization that can yield for them $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million a year in income. You can increase your ambition. That's why we wanted you to come here. Ambition that's been lingering, the spark has not been struck. That's what I wanted to do with my part. That's what every speaker wants to do with their part. When Mark arrives, it's what he wants to do with his part. Strike a spark of your ambition that's been just sort of hanging in there for a while. And after you leave here, Herbalife could have the greatest explosion ever in business because you unlocked your own personal ambition. Next, you can develop the words and the language. Make this note, you can develop the words and the language. If JimRohn did it, you can do it. You've heard my story. I stood up to give my first talk, my mind sat back down. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Scared to death, my knees knocking together, sweat pouring off my face. It was unbelievable. But here's the secret to my success. I did it again. Mark's first meeting, he told us, everyone said, we're out of here. We're not going to join. Here's the secret to his success. He did another meeting. Here's what you can do. Find the courage. If you found the courage to get here in spite of all of the obstacles, if we knew the story, we'd probably be dazzled. But I promise you, the same courage that got you here will serve you well when you get back home, talking to the next person, talking to somebody who doesn't think it's going to work. The next time you've got some upsetting experiences in your life, I promise you, the courage that got you here will see you through when you get back home. Next, part of the now and the how is finding the will to be an example. To be an example of the best, to be an example of the best customer by using the product, to be an example of the best distributor by serving others, to be an example of one who teaches and trains by getting the job done. Whether it's a little home meeting or an STS, it doesn't matter what it is, be an example. Here's what you can have, the vitality. Without the vitality, you won't make the extra call, you won't do the extra meeting, you won't stretch the extra day, you won't put in the extra hour without the vitality. A lot of people don't do well simply because they don't feel well. And that's part of the Herbalife program. That's what's worked for me all these years, traveling all around the world, is now having the vitality. And I'm asking you to step up to the vitality that will lead the way and say, hey, if I can get stronger, you can get stronger. If I can drop a few more pounds, you can drop a few more pounds. If I can somehow have the vitality I didn't have 5 years ago, 10 years ago, so can you. Lead the way in vitality and good health. Here's the next one, what you can do, and that's be the bridge. between people's despair and their hope, being the bridge between rescuing someone from oblivion financially to having now a good financial start for the future. You can do that. Now, here's what's important. To develop all areas of personal development. Let me swiftly go through these now. Just make these quick notes. All areas of personal development are important. Business, social, personal. Here's some of the ultimate challenge in personal development. Be as wise as a serpent, the old prophet said, but as harmless as a dove. What a combination, wise and harmless. A lot of people who are wise are not that harmless. And many people who are harmless are not that wise. But here was the challenge, to be both wise and harmless, creating no harm. Someone mentioned to me the other day, he said, you know, this guy can move mountains. And I said, yes, he can move mountains, but he keeps setting them over on people. He creates this trail of havoc everywhere he goes. It's not important just to be a mover and a shaker. You've got to be one who cares and understands and has compassion. Here was the next challenge of personal development, to be both ambitious and content. Some highly ambitious people are not content, and many discontent people are not that ambitious. But here's the key on personal development, and you've got to learn it so you can teach it to your people, to be both ambitious and content. Content with what you've accomplished, but ambitious to accomplish more. Here's the next one, make the list. Personal development calls for being strong and kind. Sometimes people become strong, now they're no longer kind. But the key is to be both strong and kind. And sometimes the person who's kind lacks the strength. And so the personal development story says, now that you're kind, develop the strength. But now that you're strong, develop the kindness. Be proud and humble. You don't know it all. You only know a piece of a fraction of what is and what is available. Let humility be a part of your personal development life. Proud, yes, but humble as well. Next, be bold but gentle. Not bold to push people out of the way, but bold enough to invite them to hear the story, become part of it. Be bold with your vision and gentle with your words. Here's the next one, to be both smart and compassionate. A lot of very smart people lose their compassion, and they think that their smartness will overcome the need to be compassionate. Here's the next key to learn in personal development. I'm going to go quickly now to finish up. Being is better than having. What you become is more valuable than what you get. Here's what's important. The poor must be taught not to lose hope, but the rich must be taught not to become arrogant. The poor must be taught not to be bitter, but the rich must be taught not to be impatient. It's personal development at every level, whether it's a child at school or whether it's someone sitting in this audience today, having reached a unique position. Next, we must master all the values. We must master both achieving and the virtues. If we practice the achieving and we do not practice the virtues, then the lack of virtues will erode our achieving. And we'll find ourselves as a company going backwards instead of forward. You and your organization deteriorating, not progressing. If you always go for the achieving and not the virtues, we must mix both achieving and the virtues. The wise prophet said, what if you gained the world and lost your soul? What kind of a trade would that be, to have the whole world in your hands, but you lost soul? You lost spirit. It would be a poor trade. And you would not be rich, you would be poor. What if you found riches, but you lost your way? What if you mistook fortune for wisdom and said, now that I'm rich, I must be wise? How foolish. If you want to be wise, you must work on wisdom. If you want to be rich, you must work on rich. But you must not mistake riches for wisdom. You say, I must be smart, I've got a bank full of money. Maybe you were smart enough to get the bank full of money, but a whole long list of other things, you were not that smart. What if your income grows and you don't? Wouldn't that someday be sad? And wouldn't that someday start an erosion that would not be pleasant for your future and those that would watch it happen? What if your position became valuable and you didn't? What if you lost the importance of values in spite of your success? That would be a tragedy. There's an ancient story of Esau. It said Esau one day was so hungry that he traded his birthright forever in the future for a bowl of soup, and said, because of his hunger, take my birthright and give me the soup. Not knowing how tragic being satisfied for today and giving up his future was going to be. Sometimes what tastes good in the mouth today turns bitter in the belly later. We need personal development to understand this. Don't give up your values. You must learn all the skills. What if you learned to get online and you got off track? Off track on some of the other skills that you should have paid attention to. Make the note, life is not singular. Life is a complex collection of virtues and values and skills and visions and understanding. Here's what you must learn to do and teach it and pass it on. And that is to practice all of the disciplines, develop all of the skills. Don't leave something out that would taint the rest or destroy the rest. What if success made you bitter and not better? What if success made you arrogant and not kind? What if success made you impatient and not having understanding? Wouldn't it be sad if someone has a bank account and no virtue account? A fortune without self-esteem is no fortune at all. What if someone has the money and not the class? What an example Mark has been for all of us, both the money and the class, both the money and the style. The style doesn't come with the money. You have to work on both. Isn't it sad if someone has a big car and small patience? No one stands so tall as one who stoops to help a child. What if you got the money and lost your sense of value? Richard Pryor, famous comedian, said of his own life, I finally earned enough money to buy the drugs that almost killed me. A sense of value. Jot down these notes. Here's wisdom. Someone can cheat you out of your money, but not your personal development. What if you doubled your value but didn't get paid for it? You still win because you doubled your value. Those who didn't pay you got cheated, not you. Personal development of the best kind. What if you deserved the recognition and you didn't get it? So what? You win. The ones who didn't give it, they lose. What you become is more valuable than what you get. Now these notes. Achieving is better than buying. What if you finally got all of the money and quit achieving? That wouldn't bless your life for the future. Finally, you've got the millions, and now you just start buying instead of achieving. And you start the downward slide in terms of self-respect and self-esteem and self-confidence. What if you became ultimately a spender and not an achiever? you wouldn't be happy with that life. It would be sad if you found the answers to accumulating and lost the answers to living. Is it better for a child to have a good father? Or is it better for a child to have a good fortune or a good father? And the answer is, it's better for a child to have a good father than to have a good fortune. Don't miscalculate where the values are. We've got a chance to make fortunes, but we must work on all of the other aspects of our life, or the fortune means nothing. My mentor miscalculated. He was rich enough to buy the champagne that he drank every day that finally killed him. Wise and rich, miscalculated just on a couple of things. His camels. He wasn't a chain smoker, but almost. Back then, when the packages didn't say, these things will kill you. My mentor. And then champagne all day he drank. He liked it. He never was out of control, but it killed him. Rich enough to buy the stuff that kills you. We must have personal development in all areas. It would be sad to be rich in money and poor in spirit. Now let me close. I promise you, you can do all this. Make the note. It's possible to have the fortune and the virtues. It's possible to have the fortune and the completion of personal development that makes you a unique father, that makes you a unique mother, that makes you a unique friend, that makes you a unique community developer, that makes you unique in your religion. Uniqueness comes from the striving on personal development. But I promise you, you can have the fortune and the virtues. You're being taught by the best. Now the challenge is, the best make it look easy, but they paid the price, and they'll tell you how they did it. And if they can pay, so you can pay. Now jot these little questions down and I'm finished. The first one is why. Why should we do all this? The best answer to why is why not. We've got a chance to cover the world. We've got a chance to have millions more customers. We've got a chance to make multiplied fortunes. Why not do it? Why not reach every country we can reach? Why not go to every language we can go to? Why not include every color? Why not include every age? Why not? The next question is, why not you? You've come this far. Why not go with us the rest of the journey? It is true that the law of averages says that the next time we meet, some of you will not be here. And if that is your choice, then that is your choice. We hope you take with you, wherever you go, what you've learned in Herbalife, and it'll serve you well for the rest of your life, even if you decide to do something else. But for all of us who decide to stay and grow and do, I promise you that between now and the next time, those who teach us well because they do it well are saying to you, if they can do it, you can do it. And then hopefully, here's what we will say. Why not us? If somebody's going to be the champion of health and nutrition, why not us? If somebody's going to lead the way to do mega billions, why not us? If somebody's going to be designated by God and whatever to reach the nations of the world with our story, why not us? Why not us carrying the torch? Why not us carrying the banner? Why not us letting Mark inspire us to do things that we never thought we could do by ourselves? Now here's what I want you to do. Without a doubt, together we can do it all. So I want you to stand right now and take just about 1 minute to shake hands with about 3 people and say, let's go do it. I got the message, let's go do it. I got the message, let's go do it. Thanks, everybody. God bless.